Oh, we're live. Woo!
All right.
Time delayed. Whoa! You are looking live at the Cupcast Wednesday, April 27th. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Jack Siney, Chris Simpson.
Yo.
Yo, happy Wednesday, gentlemen.
Good to see you, Jack. Good to see you, Mike.
I'm gonna get the timing. I'm gonna get the timing right. For those of you who do not know, we literally used to have a producer run the show, so I'm running it all on this one computer. So we'll see. It's getting better though. I'm messing up less and less. How y'all doing? My name is Jack Siney. Welcome to the show. Secret of Success, as we endeavor to help you get to the next level where you're trying to get to in your life and career. We've been on that path for some time. Chris, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, Chris Simpson here, 23-year veteran of the Secret Service. We're going to talk about a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. In fact, my entire professional career is doing nothing but managing conflict. What a great concept. So glad to be here.
Yes. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Michael?
Hey, good to see you guys. Mike Denker, same team selling, coaching, sales training. Try to stay busy out there helping other folks sell more than ever before.
Yes,
and just inspiring folks to be their best.
Same team selling. Encourage you if you're looking for folks to help your company sell well. Encourage you. Mike's company and what they do. Him and his wife are amazing. Same team selling. Encourage you to reach out to them. And appreciate everybody. Chris, I heard you were out doing. I saw a social media. You out doing a Spartan race this weekend. You feeling sore? A couple days later, how you feeling?
Yeah, you know, as you're getting older, man, you got to keep active. And one of the ways I did is I signed up for a Spartan race. Got a couple of my coworkers that joined me, a couple of young bucks out there. Undoubtedly, they had to wait on me a couple of times on that. But man, we finished strong. It was great. We got out there. We got a little bloody. Got a little messy. Got a little muddy. Just all in a day. I loved it, man. It was so good.
Yeah, I've never.
When you do those races, Chris, are there surprises? Like, do you kind of know everything to expect, or is there some things pop up like I didn't see that coming?
Well, they put out a map ahead of time to kind of give you an idea what the obstacles are going to be. But once you get out there, like here in South Florida, the course is really flat, man. So they included a lot more strength obstacles in it. And let me tell you, you felt it at the end. And it seemed like that barbed wire crawl that we did, it just went on forever. Like it never ended. I think it was like twice as long as normal. But what a weekend. Get out with a couple of guys out there. You got to cement that brotherhood somehow. And there's nothing better than dropping a little sweat and blood together to do it.
Maybe the sweat. I don't know about the blood part. How long, when you say it's twice as long, what is the normal crawling under barbed wire? How long is that?
Well, sometimes it's like 10 yards or so, but this was like 20 at least. I mean, this just kept going and going. And you felt it because you're sitting there on gravel and your arms, they were getting all scuffed up. But no, it was all good.
Anyone get hung up? Somebody's got to get hung up in there.
Yeah, for sure. You kidding?
What happens then?
Hey, you just unhook yourself and you keep going.
Does anyone get stuck?
Just wipe a little mud,
like a crab and a crab
on and keep going. That's the whole idea.
Does anyone get stuck? Like a crab in a crab trap or something? Anyone get stuck and need help to get out? Like,
the next guy up just kind of unhooks you. You just keep going.
Oh, it's so good. I've never done one of those. I agree. Look, with the younger generation, they cheat. I ran the half marathon in Houston. With a couple of family members. They were all in their 20s. And I mean, they were up like 30 minutes ahead of me. They're like, we're waiting on you. I'm like, what happened? So,
I mean, just getting out there is like 99% of the battle, right? So as soon as you step out there, I mean, you're winning. That doesn't even matter.
Amen. Well, that's what we say as we get older. Like, I finished. I still have my medal. The only one ask about the time is you. So it's so funny. We type A's are always super competitive. So
that's the first half of every workout for me now is showing up. I get half credit for the entire workout just for being there.
Yes. Just getting there. What is that? Half the battle's just showing up here. You know what I mean? Just being there. That's so true. I used to do that when I ran in the morning. Sometimes Mike or friends of Mike would see me and he'd be like, "Whoa, you're not moving very well." I was like, "I was just in bed 3 minutes ago." So if you see him in the first 10 minutes, I'm still not even awake when I'm up in the crack of dawn in the dark. So you think I'm dying if you see me in the first mile of my runs in AM. So funny. That's awesome. Congratulations. You staying in shape. I saw that on social media. It's amazing. So encourage folks to make sure you do that. You got to keep the machine well-oiled and functioning. And before we jump into the show, I want to just remind folks we are sponsored by I.Help. So thankful for their sponsorship of the show. Feel so blessed. I.Help is amazing platform. If you have not used it, go sign up. It's $5 a month. Everything you do today from a virtual work from home standpoint, you see it all on the screen. All your web conferencing, whatever you use, online scheduling, large files, emails, messages, all your website, podcast, any videos, anything you have online you want to share with folks, you don't have to send them now 15 different friggin' logos and links and all that stuff. You can literally just go to I.Help, $5 a month, all your stuff connected. Bottom of your email, you put, hey, connect me, I.Help / Jack Siney, Jack Dorsey, whatever you want to do. And folks will find you, and you don't have to send them 19,000 links. So cannot recommend I.Help enough. It will be the tool of the future. Do not delay. Go get your URL, $5 a month. Have your Starbucks coffee and get your I.Help account. You can do both. You don't have to get, other when people are like, just give up a cup of coffee. No, it's okay. You have $5 in the couch. And with inflation, $5 is really like $3.25 now, right? So it's not even a real $5, right? It's at least I can do.
It's a gallon of gas.
Oh, geez. That's so, unless it's diesel. Look, diesel in Maryland, like $5.50 right now. It's,
Jack, I read an article last week about decluttering your social media and your virtual life, and had a whole long article. I just thought, or you could subscribe to I.Help.
Ooh, there you go. See, that's there it is. Let's always see, we're connecting all the dots. So listen, on the show, we have, I think those who've been following us know we've kind of rebranded and really been talking about how to achieve success. And we've been kind of on this journey of what are traits, things folks need to have to achieve success. Some a little counterintuitive. Today will be one of those, but we've gone through, if you haven't seen previous shows, persistence, courage, charisma, integrity, focus, being persuasive, and self-awareness. And today we're going to talk about conflict. And if you see that, we're like, hey, how does conflict equal success? And so it's amazing because when you think about people, most people, some of the things we'll talk about today, like here it is, the Google machine says, typically a protracted one, being incompatible, variance, clashing. So too funny. Folks typically don't associate conflict with success. And then I had one other reference for us as well. So in the book, Elephant in the Boardroom by Edgar, I'm going to mess up his last name, Papke. I don't know how to pronounce that. And so surveyed 4,000 CEOs, executives. And so one of the number one things we talked about how the companies actually achieve success was actually dealing with conflict in a productive way. And it's essential. I have a couple of business leaders that talk about some of the quotes about conflict. One of the things they found in that book was 90% admitted they were uncomfortable confronting conflict. 90% were like, I don't want to deal with conflict. What happens next? How do I do it? So very interesting.
If you've ever done, Jack, one of these kind of leadership profiles, you can go online and you can answer all these questions and it tells you what type of leadership style you have.
Yeah.
There are actual leadership styles that are well attuned to dealing with conflict. The diplomat leader, he's a people person. He's well attuned to conflict. But the natural human inclination, and I think we all kind of feel this naturally, is to avoid contact at all costs, right? Like it's uncomfortable. There's a friction there, and you really don't want to be a part of that. But as we're going to come to see, that's really important actually to growth.
There's a book called Crucial Conversations, and I'm actually trained in crucial conversations. But what's really cool about it is it says that every time a company avoids a conflict, it costs the company about $150. And they said that doesn't seem like a lot of money, but they said over the year, every employee avoiding conflict costs them about $400,000 because everybody's avoiding the conflict. And so it gets swept under the rug and it stews, right? Relationships, departments, divisions don't align with other divisions. And it could be one individual conflict with another personality that's stopping the entire machine from running well.
Absolutely.
There is a ton, literally, if you just put conflict resolution success into the Google machine, there's a ton of surveys, analysis, professional things, crazy. Again, in that Elephant in the Boardroom book, they talk about, the quote out of that book was, when leaders fail to confront conflict, it becomes the biggest elephant in the room, hence the title of the book. And so they were trying to figure out, hey, what separates the best companies from the worst companies, the most successful careers from folks that are languishing? And it is this topic. It's the ability to both strategically use conflict and the ability to actually want to jump into it versus avoid it, because so many people want to avoid it, right? And so the ability to jump in and like say, "Ooh, this is a real thing," I think it's just important for us to kind of realize as we're trying to get to the next level of success.
Yeah, no doubt, Jack. I mean, in fact, leaders sometimes are the worst at this. And here's the reason. Like, leaders can be very good, generally speaking, at identifying strengths and weaknesses in those that work for them. But tend to have blind spots, like we all do, right? Like, leaders aren't non-susceptible to blind spots. And when they avoid conflict, what they are sometimes doing is avoiding identifying a weakness in their own leadership that could be addressed and fixed to move forward.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know, too many times with misunderstandings, right? That I didn't even intend it. You were mad at me, and I didn't even intend it that way. I'm just totally misunderstood, and the cost and the slowdown and just all the delays that are associated with that are just avoidable, right? But the question is there a way to handle conflict, right? And I was just thinking in my mind as we were preparing for the show, kindergarten through 12th grade, through undergrad, through MBA, I couldn't think of a single class where they taught me some skills around navigating conflict well. Yeah. Talked about conflict. I learned that in psychology class, some other things, but you know, that's 17 years of education that nobody gave me guidelines, strategy, tactics.
Give me, as we're in it early, so go ahead. What's one of your best ones now that you're like, hey, how have you dealt with it? What would be your number one tip you'd say to somebody under you?
Well, you know, it's interesting so the first thing you're supposed to do is analyze, what am I dealing with here? Am I dealing with a one-off, right? Am I going to talk about just the issue? Is it a singular issue that I've never seen before between me and this other person? Or do I see a trend developing, right? This has happened. Were they late Monday, first time ever? Were they late last Thursday, Monday, and today, starting a trend? Or have they been late 7 times this month and I'm mad? Those are 3 different ways that you're supposed to identify that and go, wait a minute. Is this singular, a trend, or is it affecting our relationship? Because I'm going to address it. I'm going to say, wait, there's some different ways. Is this a Band-Aid or is this CPR, right? What do I need for this relationship right now? And then approaching it, the other rule is never try to tackle 2 issues when you're trying to resolve a conflict. Stay on point. Don't go. And by the way, now that we got that behind us, let's talk. No, hold on. Let's keep it focused on the issue that's really the one at hand. And that's the one you determined, right? What's the important one before I go in? And then from Crucial Conversations, they have a process called STATE. STATE is STATE, right? And so S is stay with the truth, right? Say the truth. What's the truth? What's the truth? And so what are the facts of the matter? Don't say, I'm really bummed that, no, say, listen, 12 days late 4 times. Those are facts. Now, what the next thing you say is, how is that affecting me, right? You get to tell them how it's affecting them. So you say, hey, based upon you being late 7 times, I'm starting to tell myself a story. What's the story? You don't care about your job anymore. Or you're not responsible, or you're not taking it seriously. And then you ask them, how am I doing with my story? It's that simple. It's so great. You just go, A is ask, how am I doing with my story? And then T, right? T is to navigate. Now you're going to say, not oh my gosh, I forgot the word. You're going to be.
Are you going to go through state? This will be the whole thing.
No, T and E. We're almost there. But the T is to be open-minded, right? To be. I'll figure out the word. It'll come to me. But it's to be open-minded and not like I know how this is. It's to be
transparent.
Not transparent. The way you approach it, right? You're supposed to be not trepid either. But. So be open-minded and don't be so, like I know everything. Come across, maybe timid is the right word, but it'll come back. And then E is to explore alternatives, right? Hey, so the person said, yep, I've been struggling, boss, with really staying focused and being engaged. Or my kids don't get on the bus anymore. The bus doesn't go in there. We got to drop a kid, or like there's so many different reasons why they're going down that road. And now you just investigate or expand, engage in alternatives. How can we solve this together? And what's great is it's not perfect, but we all assume. That's what I love about it, is that middle part where I start to say, here's the story I'm starting to tell myself. Well, here's what's great. That's called assuming. But we always tell people don't assume. We assume like 5 million times a minute, right? We're always assuming, right? So to be able to say, here's what I'm assuming. Am I accurate? Right. And then that's how the dialogue goes. It's just a great technique. And I've used it so much that they actually brought me, Jack, you and I worked at Trimble together, but they brought me to headquarters. They flew, like, Mike's got this thing he's doing in South Florida. They flew me to headquarters to train the division leaders on crucial conversations, because navigating conflict is so important. And that's a $1 billion market cap company that multi-billion, $6 billion market cap that they're like, we need to navigate conflict better.
Yeah. I think the key is people to dig in and know that it's really part of the success journey. Avoiding conflict, avoiding challenging situations is going to not go well. Just like we started to show on our health, you ignoring a health issue, be like, oh, my tooth hurts. I'm just going to act like it doesn't. And it never really ends well. We all know that. And so, Chris, what would you say to folks as they try to navigate? Best advice dealing with conflict?
Yeah. So basically my entire career, whether it be in the Marines or in the Secret Service, has been on interpersonal levels, right? Like, so conflict comes down to, and Mike hit upon it, communication between individuals, right? And one of the things that I've found to be incredibly successful for me, and I deal with people on a consistent basis, right, is just to affirm where they're at. Right. So the conflict that we may be having, it may just be a lack of communication. So, for example, up in New York, I was on an assignment up there at Trump Tower, and there was this couple that all the other agents were telling me, like, man, that they just hate us. It's always a conflict with these guys. It's very frictional, the relationship. And so when I saw them coming, I started talking to them, and I said, sir, I go, let me just tell you, I'm sorry you're having to go through all of these issues. Like, every day you're having to be checked. This is your home. This is where you live. I really hate that you're having to go through this inconvenience. It's not fair to you. Would you forgive me for having to do this? I know it's just my job, but I ask for your forgiveness because it's unfair to you. And just affirming where he was at, like, just in that moment, just for that 15 to 20 seconds, I just affirmed what he felt, where he was coming from. It changed everything. Yeah. Right. It took the relationship from one of conflict, where it was him against us, versus, look, he understands me. He's willing to meet me where I'm at and affirm where I'm at. And it took that from an unhealthy conflict to one where the rest of the visit, he was like, man, it's my favorite agent there. Everything was fine, like no issues whatsoever. Like doing what we asked him to do, all for the simple fact that I was willing to affirm where he was at in that moment and just communicate with him. Sometimes in conflict, we tend to draw lines in the sand. Like, that's unhealthy, quite honestly, because what it does is it refuses to challenge our assumptions. And see, we're not going to grow if we don't ever challenge our assumptions. So the moment you wipe the line in the sand off and you say, look, here, I'm standing right with you. Let's meet and see what this is actually all about, so that both of us can grow in a healthy manner moving forward.
I totally agree. Listen, the empathy piece, you can disengage almost any conflict by just empathizing and looking at the other person's perspective, right? There's one I have, where is this, right? It's the Road of Alignment. Oh, yeah, there's Forbes had an article, Conflict as a Catalyst for Success, right? And they feel like one of the surveys they did, so Forbes obviously have thousands, millions of readers, right? One of their surveys is, hey, less than 10% of the people feel their colleagues make any effort to understand their perspective. So just think about that. It's like, if you're going in, people do this all the time in social media, right? Like, oh, I'm going to go in and change somebody's political view or their stance or their opinion. You're like, that's never happening. That's not good. But then you just empathize. If you want to show up and change somebody's perspective and have them listen, what is that? Covey, first seek to understand before being understood, right? Reaching out, make sure someone understands what you're saying. That goes so far. People let down their guard, and then, you could sneak in a little factoid maybe on them every once in a while. So,
well, have you ever stayed in a fight longer than after you realized you were wrong? I mean, that's so much trouble. And somebody, I don't remember what book I was reading, but it told me to say these words: "I was wrong. Please forgive me." And I was about 32 at the time, and I was like, not a chance. Like, and I was thinking about the person, like who I'm in the conflict with. Like, there's no way. Well, 2 days later, I was like, something just hit me. I'm like, I need to go say to that person. I walked in their office. I stood at the door, halfway in the doorway, and say, by the way, that thing we've been talking about, I realize I'm wrong. Please forgive me.
Listen, I would just add, you don't even have to agree. Like maybe there's a lot of times we have to swallow, especially as leaders.
Right.
Like we get hung up on, well, I'm right and I'm right. Well, what's that thing? You want to be right or you want to be happy, right? There's sometimes
you can be so right, you're wrong, right?
You swallow and be like, it's cool, right?
I mean, how many times have you won the argument but lost the person, right? Like, and that is a negative on at the end of the day, right? Like, I don't care how many points you got across. If you won that argument but you lost that person, did you really win? The answer is absolutely no. And Human Resources 101 is people matter. Okay, arguments can be brought up, conversations can be had again, points can be made later, but if you lose the person, then that's a net negative.
Yeah. It's interesting. I spent a bunch of my early years in the DC area. And so when you live in the DC area, it's all about politics. And I had a chance to go see Colin Powell speak. And so he obviously amazing. And something he said stuck with me so much. He was like, hey, we had some policies out there. We had to decide, do we want to win the battle or win the war? Mm-hmm. He said so many times, he was at events, he was at different circumstances, debates, what have you. And he would strategically, hey, I might give in on this point so I don't lose the whole audience. He's trying to move momentum toward an issue or a certain item. And he's like, I had to do that all the time. That stuck with me. I was so young. He's like, listen, I had all the facts, right? And he's super sharp dude. And he was like, I knew we were right, but either am I going to burn this whole audience with all my facts, or do I want to empathize and then come back and hopefully, have at least half the room leave on my side. And so strategically, it always stuck with me because he had all the information. And what happened, we as people, especially in the US, especially type A's, feel like we're the smartest person, right? We get on social media, people ask questions. On the media, you see people come to the mic and ask questions, right? And they'll say something, and normally the speaker has all the information and they could light you up, and it's just picking the moments. Again, maybe you move somebody your perspective. I love that point, Chris. Like you want to win the battle, or do you want to win the war, right? And so I think all the things we'd rather win the war, right?
It's really cool. When I worked at the phone company, AT&T, back in the 90s, they brought in the Harvard guys. Like the Harvard guys are coming in, and so this team from Harvard came in and taught us about issues-based negotiations, and it was so awesome. And what was amazing is that the leadership of the company and the leadership of the union all came to the same training, and everybody grasped it. Everybody. It was like, everybody's like, oh, this is amazing. This is going to be great. Except for the table that had the three leaders of the union and 3 leaders of the company at the table. They were old. They couldn't understand it. They're like,
don't get along.
What's this all about? And they lost every event. Like we had all these different negotiating events, and they just kept losing the event because they kept going, I don't trust you. It was so great.
Right, I don't trust you. 100%.
They don't trust each other. What was so great about the concept was, let me understand what you're trying to get out of the negotiations before we start negotiating.
Yeah.
Like, let me understand which issues are important to you. Let me explain to you what issues are important to me. And let's see if 2 good-hearted people can get together and try to make something come out of this, as opposed to being absolutely conflict doesn't have to be confrontational.
Right. And I tell you what, communication is the key here, right? So if you communicate kind of what the end goal is, and you come to an agreement like where you all want to end up at, you can have conversations about the steps along the way, but as long as everybody knows the direction you're headed in, there should be open, right, to the next steps. But a lot of times we get stuck in keeping the information to ourselves. Like sometimes leaders are the worst. Like we decide that we know where we want to go, but we keep it to ourselves instead of communicating it out. Because what happens when you don't communicate is skepticism starts to brew, questions start to brew, people start to wonder what's happening. What you want to do is avoid that totally. You can avoid so much conflict by simply stating, here's my vision. Here's my vision. Here's where I think we're going to go to. This is where I want to end up at. And here's the path I think we need to take. Guys, what do you think?
Yeah.
Right? How much conflict can be avoided if we would just simply verbalize our vision?
Well, I think in the business world, there's two things I want to hit on. Was I found, although this is old, they said Walt and Roy Disney use conflict to their advantage, right? Disney exploded, national brand in the news a lot right now. But they said Walt, intense creative visionary, his brother Roy, down to the earth pragmatist. And they said in the initial days of Disney, that it worked great because they would balance each other out. Ton of conflict, people behind the scenes. If you read about the forming of Disney, apparently there was arguments all the time about, oh, we got to be so visionary and creative. And the other guy was like, hey, how are we going to make a business out of this? So amazing. And in today's world, though, if you're in the sales world, the book, The Challenger Sale, I love that book. Maybe not all the tenets. Some of you that read it are like, oh, does it always work? But in the Challenger Sale book, it's a bunch of academics. It's not like whoever. It's not Grant Cardone or Zig Ziglar or Brian Tracy trying to sell you stuff. It was a bunch of academics studying, hey, what were the best sales reps? Like what made the sales reps the best at what they did? And what they found is the sales reps in the process, they were able to challenge the prospect during the negotiation, during the sales pitch. Those are the ones that made the most money because they were comfortable when a prospect said something. They're like, "Oh, well, that may not be correct. Maybe that's not accurate. Here's some information to make you change how you think." And so that's what they found. Those folks were the best at selling things because in the world of business, well, just agree. Just say you agree. Yes, a yes man, right? We always
Get to yes.
Yes, get to yes. And it's like that's not what people want to do if you're able to do it in an empathetic, loving way, not called, hey, you can't be like, hey, stupid, you're wrong about that, right? If you're able to do it in an empathetic way with some facts, those are the people that always sold the most because then the other side saw you as an expert, saw you as somebody helping them get to where they want, not just always butting heads, right? And that's where the conflict part people bother because they feel like, I think Mike said it earlier, they always feel like it has to be in a combative way.
Confrontational, right?
Yeah, and it really doesn't have to, right? There's a million ways to address conflict and not have to be so adversarial, right?
In our sales training, we talk about it all the time because there's a lot of things that sound challenger sales, and the way it's presented in the book to me, it sounds prickly, right? It's the word that comes to me is prickly because they don't say, you know what, you should probably soften the way you. I think everything they say is genius, by the way, but the way they deliver it, I would have thrown the guy out of the office. Like, listen, can I tell you what you're doing wrong? Like, no, but. One of the things that we train is, can we ask, can you help me out? Because I feel like there's something really important I want to tell you, but I think you're going to get mad at me. Mm-hmm. Right. And then what do people do with that? They go, no, I want to know. And then, okay, well, here's what I'm thinking is that you're about to make it because the challenger is trying to figure out a way to help somebody not make a bad decision.
Yeah.
Right. It's not to be just challenge them because my thing is the best thing. It's like, I really believe I got some things to show you why you're not making the best decision.
To be better, right? Just to be better. Right.
There's a way to do this, but I need to challenge the way you're thinking right now. And how can I do that without being prickly? Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's a fantastic John Maxwell technique, man. Like that guy is brilliant when it comes to communications. I can't tell you how many times he said he'll go into a scenario, he'll say, look, I've got something I want to share with you, but I'm not sure you're ready for it. Man, boy, that sets them up. They're all dying for it at that point. John Maxwell is a fantastic communicator. Yeah. But I want to kind of circle back around. We're talking about in the very beginning of this, how do you people are avoiding conflict, and that's not necessarily good for growth, right? I think we need to really be intentional about helping this next generation, right? Like the problem with this new generation of young professionals is they're growing up in an environment that really tries to make it frictionless, like any friction whatsoever, like it's an issue. Right. For this young generation. I really hate that for them because there's a stunting of growth when you avoid friction. Right. Because it's in that place, right? Like where two things are rubbing against each other, where it gets really hot, but it's also in that place where it's honing and shaping happens that doesn't happen any other place. Right. So we really need to help the younger people say it's okay to have friction. It's not an attack against your person. Go with it and watch what can happen once you actually begin to have communications based on a conflict.
And what happened normally? That's when big jumps happen, right? When folks are willing to work through the conflict. Now, so this is happening live, right? We all know Elon Musk is making the run at Twitter, and that looks like that deal finally got done if it gets through the regulators, right? But that when he said it, the waves that just, hey, I'm gonna buy Twitter and like make it different. That thing, forget what side of the political spectrum you're on, right? It's like so healthy for us as a country to have it be like, ooh, hey, what does this really mean? What, as it got out of the gate, Twitter is very different today than when it first started. Obviously, one of the former presidents got in there and and then the election, it seemed like it significantly impacted the election as well. And so that thing, if he was just trying to have it smooth, he wouldn't have made the offer to Twitter, right? Then they were a poison pill and they didn't want it. And some of their staff is all kerfuffled up. But it's that thing. It's just going to make us, as we as society, just starting to deal with social media as a major impact of big things, not just some cursory thing people do on the side. It's amazing that his willingness, Elon Musk's willingness to like take the bullets, take the blowback, and like create conflict is in no doubt, again, forget what political spectrum you come from, going to make us a better country and going to make Twitter a better platform as they kind of internally wrestle with different things, right? It's too easy when it's all one way. If everybody around you is drinking the Kool-Aid and it's all flowers and rainbows, you can bet you're probably going down the wrong road. If everybody, I saw a thing on the news the other day. That's what they do in like communist foreign dictator companies. Everyone aligns. If you're against the Chinese, the current prime minister of China, you're probably in trouble, right? So if you have 90% concurrence, it's not good, right?
Right.
No.
Right. History makers with a lasting and healthy impact have always been change makers, right? The ones willing to step, like Elon Musk did not have to step in there and take on that conflict. But he did. And because of that, you're going to see something happen that is historical. And the history makers with healthy impacts have always been the ones willing to step into conflict.
Yeah.
One of the most controversial characters in history is Jesus. And he spoke a lot about conflict. It's really interesting that one of his famous sermons, or some people say the most famous sermon, the Sermon on the Mount, he talks about it a lot. But one of the things he says is, blessed are the peacemakers. They should be called sons of God. That sounds like high ranking. And so the peacemakers, though, not peacekeepers, peacemakers, that means you've got to engage and you've got to navigate through to get to the other side, which is you find conflict and you make peace, right? Because if there's no conflict, you're not a peacemaker, you're a peacekeeper, right? So you got to find conflict and make peace. And the other thing he says is that it's really interesting that he says, agree with your adversary quickly while you're still on your way with him. And on your way where? Well, to court, because it says if you don't, he's going to throw you over to the judge and the judge is going to make you pay every last penny. But what's really interesting is that agree with your adversary. Now, does that mean give up? Does that mean lose your ground? Does that mean stop standing for something? No, it means build bridges. It means build bridges and find what you guys have to agree on first, and then work through the conflict now with this new understanding that we've got a lot more in common than we have differences. Yeah. And we've seen that in so many times work well, but that's where change happens, right? Where two groups that were supposedly, or they thought opposed, they realized, wait, we have a common goal. We have a common thing we want to accomplish, a better world maybe, or a better neighborhood. And if we could just skip two things we disagree on and go to work on the 8 or 9 things that we agree on, we'll get a lot more done. And I think we've all got the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. As men of faith here, continuing on a faith context, one of my favorite pastors, Tim Keller from Redeemer Presbyterian in New York City, he said one time, it really stuck with me. If your God never disagrees with you, perhaps you're not worshiping God, but rather an idealized version of yourself. So if you're going through life and no one ever disagrees with you, think about that. Think about the extent of your life. If no one disagrees with you, if you're only living within this box, where are you going? Like there's zero growth available to you if you are limiting yourself to your own perspective only.
Think about biology, Chris. In biology, if the same bloodline keeps making the same bloodline, and gets weaker It gets diseased. It gets all these different things. But, well, I mean, in the dog world, it's called a mutt. But mutts are healthy, right? Mutts are healthy because they got all these different inputs and different diversity. And I think there's so much in that for how we develop our worldview, that saying someone else's worldview is completely wrong is probably completely wrong, right? That nobody's worldview is completely wrong. And so let's talk to each other about what we believe and why, and find those, face the conflict. I think one of the great things that I think if anybody gets anything out of this, when you see conflict, if it's about something important, go towards it. Go towards it, because nothing's happening when everybody's running away from it. Nothing is changing.
Right. Absolutely, Mike. And, I was just having a conversation with someone who was jumping from one career to the next. And I said, look, as you're walking through life, you're going to have the dark thread days and you're going to have the beautiful bright thread days, but you need all of these to weave together to create the tapestry of your life. So when you come into conflict with people, look, they're wired different than me. That's okay. And they're meant to be. The picture that they're creating, that God's creating in their life, is beautiful for them. And he's going to use that in incredible ways. I'm not going to discredit them in any way. What I'm going to do is have a healthy conversation, and we're going to bring peace into where was conflict, and we're both going to grow healthily ahead.
Yeah, the David Novak, the CEO of Yum Brands, right? Taco Bell, you name it, et al., right? He said the road to real alignment, success, often paid with conflict. There's just no doubt. If you have to find a way. I love empathetic, and I love that the conflict doesn't have to be adversarial, right? Like that's where people get unnerved. They feel that freaky feeling. It's like if you're gonna, it applies. What came to mind was if you're going to terminate someone, those who've been in a leadership position have to terminate somebody. There can be this huge disconnect, but there is a way to share with somebody, hey, listen, you're in the wrong job, right? You're at round peg, square hole. Let me lovingly help you get to the place where you should be. And there's a lot of ways to do that doesn't have to be so adversarial. And then, you guys brought up faith. And so no doubt in the faith world, faith has caused a lot of consternation across the globe, and can do so in your own house. But the ability to both hear, listen, share, and empathize, so that you find what works for you, and your ability to both share your faith and listen can be amazing. Too often, though, social media and the news, it's the media, right? It's the media throws gas on it, right? The media, they find, look, all these stories, which one creates the most consternation? If you're unaware, look, quick side note, you watch news more when there's a hurricane coming, a storm coming, when there's a major riot, when there's issues. If it's all calm, guess what? No one turns on the news. So you know what the news does? What's the most salacious, crappy thing I can fire up and gets people all dialed in? And so the infrastructure is working against us to create prolonged conflict. And so I think out of this show, the one thing I'd love folks to know is that you can have strategic conflict, and you can find a way to move forward and not have to create adversarial relationships with those around you.
Jack, you used the word lovingly, and it reminded me, the word I was trying to think of before the T word is tentative, right? Isn't that a great position? Like when you're casting vision, you need to be confident, you need to be on your game, and you need to be on point. But when you're dealing with another human being one-on-one, be tentative. Don't be all-knowing. Nobody wants to hang around with a know-it-all. Be someone that's open to learning new things and new ideas from the person that's in front of them, and but be the person that really wants to know that other person. Yeah. Because that is the most important thing another person wants to be, is validated and confirmed. And we can do that all day long, but we can't do it. We can do it so much better from a position of tentative.
And a position of confidence, right? Like, so a lot of times, this is what I stated at Holiday Inn Express last night, psychology, right? A lot of times the anger and the vitriol in a conflict comes from our own insecurities. If somebody got too close to our soft spot sensitivity area. And so when it does, we blow back instead of trying to deal with that, right? We were hurt as a young person. We were hurt at some point in our life. We're going through something. And so that affects us. And instead of dealing with that in our own life, we want to strike out a lot of times. And so again, psychology 101, the conflict. And if you're able to confidently deal with stuff inside, it makes you much better able to kind of handle the conflicts that are kind of crossing your plate, because you don't take it as a personal attack. The example I was using when you guys were talking was, most companies have a performance review, right? Whether it's every 6 months, like no one wants that. No one. I'm going to sit down and tell you all the things that you need to work, develop. And it's like, oh, like people think they want to review, but when they get it, they want to hear the good things, and the bad thing comes up. They're like, right? No one. Here's all the things you stink at. You're going to do better, or maybe we'll get you promoted. So it's so funny. Our corporate world puts that in us. So listen, as we run out of time, Chris, any last things, conflict, things you'd want to share? Make sure anything we missed.
Yeah. So yesterday, actually, I had a young guy who I'm kind of mentoring, and he had a conflict with somebody, and I told him, I said, look, be unoffendable. Like if you can go through life as a man unoffendable, imagine the incredible impact that you can make, and the conflict, the unhealthy conflicts that you can avoid. And also kind of going back to what you said, Jack, look, I just put something on social media a couple of days ago, earlier this week. Look, don't entertain hate.
I saw that. The second one was a mistake.
The idea behind it is, look, the American economy right now is built on both the left and the right's capacity to enrage us, right? To keep us enraged. And if we just decide, look, I'm just going to be both unoffendable and I'm not going to entertain hate, look, because living in the shifting sands of my emotions is actually not living. And so that was my recommendation to this brother who I'm helping mentor, and to the rest of us. Look, be unoffendable and just don't entertain hate. We are worth so much more than that, and life is so much more valuable than spending time with those things.
I think that there were some really good just pointers today, just little one-liners even that could help us better navigate conflict. One was like, hey, so how'd you come up with that thought? Or, what makes you think that, what makes you feel that way about that issue? And one of the words I found not to asking questions is, why do you feel that way? Why are you like that? Why? Because it can be confrontational, right? So taking those why questions and then rephrasing them in a how or a what can be more effective in reducing the tension and more quickly and more effectively navigating the conflict to resolution, right? To a new resolution, which could be some compromise.
Yeah, my last thing would be, amen. I totally agree. When my kids, I would say to them all the time, especially when they're younger, hey, you got to know before you get in a situation what you're going to do, in socially compromising situations, because in the moment we're all fleshly, and a lot of us will make the wrong decision. But if you decide ahead of time, hey, when this happens, I'm out, right? You'll typically do the right thing. Encourage folks, typically with conflict, you're not going to get to where you want if you have big goals and big dreams without some conflict. And knowing that in advance and be able to sense it's coming, and knowing, hey, what's your playbook when it happens? Like, do you engage, empathize? Maybe you, maybe you have a quick trigger and you're like, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to shut down, exit, and then come back and re-engage. You knowing ahead of time what's going to happen, I promise you'll handle the conflict situation better. And we're all different. We're all wired different. Some people can be just the whole way through. Some people, again, quick trigger and got to go. So I just encourage you to think about it. And it's going to happen. It's part of you achieving great things. And having a game plan for how you'll handle conflict can really help you get to the next level. Amazing on your path to success. Amen?
So true.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I want to just remind folks again, let me where I have it. Oh, there it is. Look, go sign up for iHelp. Amazing platform. $5 a month. Go get iHelp. It's amazing. Could not recommend it more. Gents, any last words, any last thoughts before we wrap?
Reconcile.
No, keep loving people, man. You're never going to go wrong in that. You keep loving people, you're going to lay a foundation you'll be able to work off of forever.
Amen. I love that. Love people. Look, we will see you next week. I'll let you know what the topic's going to be. Thank you, everybody, for your time.